Hello, I'm Dr Sandra Cabot and I'm here today with Dr Marvin Anderson, who's a medical doctor and a specialist internist in the subject of nutritional medicine. And we're talking about the gut-brain connection in the context of autism, but it really applies to any type of brain inflammation. So there's a very, very important connection between our gut and our brain, and this is relatively new research.
It is, and it started, with the book called The Second Brain.
Yes.
And Michael Gershon's book, and he made that connection, and his colleague at Columbia, Dr. Martha Welch, who's a psychiatrist, but she's also a very good researcher,
Yes.
has identified a similarity, or not a similarity, but a connection between inflammation in the gastrointestinal tract and inflammation in the brain.
Yes.
Now this is very interesting.
Fascinating.
Because autism, as we said, is a disease with genetic predispositions.
Yes.
Also, that's characterized by brain inflammation.
Yes.
Now we just tied the inflammation in the brain to the inflammation in the gut.
Yes.
This means that if you have an inflamed gut, for example, you can create inflammatory bowel disease in an animal.
Yes.
Crohn's disease. You can create Crohn's disease by giving a chemical, and the brain and the gut will inflame. But the brain will inflame at exactly the same rate.
Yes.
And as the Crohn's disease gets better, if you give medicines to the animal to make the Crohn's disease better, the inflammation goes down in the intestine and it goes down in the brain at the same time. Now, the implications for managing autism are you have to treat both.
Yes.
You can't just treat the gut.
Yes.
Or you can't just treat the brain like with psychiatric medicines,
True.
You must address both. Now,
Yes.
there is a connection between these two.
Yes.
And the connection is the word oxytocin. Okay. Oxytocin is a hormone that most of us know is used to induce labor.
Yes.
But oxytocin...
And breastfeeding.
Yes, yes. But oxytocin is also the hormone of domestication. That means that years and years ago, we made wolves into pet dogs.
Yes.
By taking them into our caves and domesticating them. And when that process happened, the oxytocin flowed both in us and in the dog.
Interesting.
Now, the oxytocin, Dr. Welch has pointed out, can be administered to these animals, and when you do that, the inflammation goes down in both organs. But it's impossible to give it continuously, which is what she did in the laboratory. So we have to find a way of increasing the oxytocin on a long-term basis.
Yeah.
And the way that's done, believe it or not, is with animals. Okay. Now, it takes more than a weekly trip to the zoo. Having animals around. Now, dogs are easily the best, but they're not part of the food chain. Even having a small farm, a small garden farm with a few animals there, and having the children integrate and get used to the animals, they will cause their oxytocin to rise, and that's our bailiwick. That would be very, very helpful. At the same time, there is it's very important that the right organisms grow in the intestinal tract.
Absolutely.
Now, you could take the intestinal tract of a child who is raised on a farm and culture the mattress, and he will have all sorts of organisms in his GI tract that come from the farm animals.
Oh.
So, but not the child that, isn't that interesting? Not the child that grows up in the city. So we've sort of slipped over here now into talking about what grows in our intestine. 10 times as much DNA as we have.
Yes.
Those numbers of those cells outnumber us 10 to 1.
And what about the foods we eat? That's going to affect the type of microorganisms in our gut, and that will decide whether we have got bowel inflammation and leaky gut, which then causes brain inflammation. So what about the foods we should eat to foster a healthy gut with less inflammation?
Well, we probably should first talk about the foods that do the opposite,
Yeah.
Gluten can be a terrible irritant,
Yes, gluten.
No human being has the enzymes to take apart the gluten molecule. The problem is that the situation is that some of us can do it a little bit, and we get by with it. So grains of any kind, you know, and sometimes even, believe it or not, rice and corn and so on, because there is enough molecular similarity between all these, so that you really have to get off all of them in severe cases. And, and we use things like almond flour.
Yes.
You know, we make a waffle with almond flour and potato starch, and it's a very good bread substitute.
Yeah.
But the high sugar foods, high fructose corn syrup is terrible because it fosters the growth of Candida in the intestinal tract.
Indeed.
You know?
Yeah, a high sugar diet will foster the growth of unhealthy microorganisms and cause gut inflammation. So we want to get our sugar from fruit, from natural foods.
Absolutely. And probably not fruit too late in the day, because we don't want that fruit to ferment in the GI tract overnight. So we draw the line at 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Now, we have to talk about what we should eat. We talked about what we can eat. How about what we should eat?
Yes.
And I think that here's where the fermented foods come into place. You know, Natasha Campbell McBride, Dr. McBride's book on the GAP diet, the gut psychology syndrome diet, it emphasizes the importance of fermented foods.
Yes.
And also things like bone broth. Now, you know, when we are born, there is a critical time where our intestinal tract needs to be implanted with the right organisms.
True.
There's a 50-cent name for it. It's called fetal microbial imprinting. Now, if that doesn't occur, if the child is whisked off because it's premature, he or she is premature, whisked off to the neonatal intensive care unit, where they're deprived of breastfeeding, where they're given things like antibiotics and steroids, which promote candidal growth in the GI tract, then we miss that window of opportunity, and the wrong organisms could get imprinted in the GI tract right from the first few days of life, and sometimes that's a problem we have to deal with for all of life.
Yes.
So we talk about the importance of like breastfeeding early, so we get the right fetal microbial imprinting, and then the catch-up ball is done with not only probiotics, but we're moving towards these fermented foods. We do them in our house all the time. We make there's sauerkraut, you know, we make yogurt, we make kefir, you know, and you get trillions of organisms there. And then the healing thing, I think, is with the bone broth. You can buy bones and boil them up, you know, and you can use that.
And is that because the bone broth is so high in minerals, easily absorbed?
Yes, and I think it must have some things like collagen in it and other things that really cause the cell substance of the GI tract to heal.
Okay, a bit like glutamine, which is also good if you've got a leaky gut. So the fermented foods are wonderful, and people take a probiotic supplement, and there's a lot of very good ones out there, but it's even cheaper if you can start fermenting foods at home, and there's a lot of information on the internet now about creating your own fermented foods, isn't there?
And as long as you've gotten into the fermentation, you know, you might as well get into the sprouting.
Oh, okay.
Because these seeds like alfalfa and especially broccoli sprouts, you know, you can make them on your
broccoli sprouts, wonderful.
Oh, they're very
for the
rich
liver, wonderful for the liver.
Very rich in glutathione, and that the broccoli sprouts are just wonderful, and that can be added to the diet. Now, there's another good, positive, healing food that's very good for preventing and treating autism.
Yeah, broccoli sprouts, and you can do that at home.
Absolutely.
Yeah? Apple cider vinegar, miso, kefir, coconut yogurt, Greek yogurt, all these wonderful microorganisms which heal the bowel, reduce inflammation, and then your brain has less inflammation. So there's a big connection between the gut and the brain. And for more information, I highly recommend Dr. Anderson's book, Autism Prevention, Care and Management, and visit his website. You can email Dr. Anderson any questions if you want help. And
it is on Amazon.
It is on Amazon, of course.
And the iBook has just come out, and that is on Amazon also.
Fabulous.
The ebook.
Oh, great. That's so exciting. And thank you for sharing your wisdom with us, Dr. Anderson.